Hello, peoples. This is Greg Huffman, Greg Dretzep Huffman, back, and we'll be back with another DK Big Ideas book since I can't get enough of DK Big Ideas. Yeah. Like I said, I always recommend these books, and this is no exception. I've read a few textbooks on feminism now, or women's studies, however I want to classify it. And again, I love all the little but the little icons and things. I'm always fascinated by this. I always go by and read all of those. A little Octothorpe of me too. With this book, and of course I haven't quite finished it. I'm very close to finishing it. But one thing, I already said that this is the best book on feminism I've read, and I've read a few, and I know I already did a video on one of them, and I believe I said in there, it kind of starts off where it's like historical stuff and just kind of inserts what women were doing at the time. But this one, you can't just go through, like, there's Simone de Beauvoir and all that. So the cool thing about this introduction is amazing for setting up the history and how feminism has evolved over the years. Better than any other introduction I've ever read. It explains all the waves and how they came about. And I actually learned, even though I've read like 3 books on feminism before this, I actually learned a ton from just this one. And then again, you have these timelines. So the cool thing about this is, like, you learn about the first wave, where it's sort of like, Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton and all that. But what I didn't know, I knew about how second wave feminism came about through Betty Friedan's Feminine Mystique. I believe that was in 1963. I always get, because I know in 1962, I think Rachel Carson's Silent Spring came around. And these are the ones before, like the pre-first wave feminists, like Mary Wollstonecraft and what's the other one they got? Olympia. Sand. What's going on out there? Anyway, I don't know how to say Olympus de Gouges or whatever. I'm sure I fucked that up a lot. But it has, and these are all the pre's. It has, what was I going to say? Yeah, it mentions all the pre-first wave feminists that, a lot of them I haven't really heard much about. So yeah, here's some of the, and of course I love all the graphics. They're super based. Ish. There we are, Mary Wollstonecraft, I just mentioned her. But one thing I learned is Simone de Beauvoir was actually considered, she was almost like the, what do you call it? I'll be on me, so I'm not just scrolling, not thinking about it. She was almost like the proto second wave feminist, where her book was in 1949. I have read it. I don't remember if I actually finished it. I don't remember if it was too, dry or whatever for me. I used to read philosophical works. It was just exclusively, but now Alright, sorry, there was too many people coming and going on the front door at my place to focus on this. So, anyway, Simone de Beauvoir, who was married to the existentialist, I only got like the title, we call that Jean-Paul Sartre. I don't need to go on another philosophical thing, but I used to read philosophy all the time, but I just got it became a case of diminishing returns. I just felt like I started to not find as much interesting things, so I started getting more in that, like, history, just any other subjects that you just keep getting new information. Sometimes you overload yourself. But in 1949, she did this book called The Second Sex, and it says actually in here, there's some debate because I looked it up on Google, and some say that she was the first to really talk about gender in 49, but then they also mentioned a guy named John Money, and then there was somebody else before. Don't write that down. I wrote it down somewhere. I don't know if I wrote it over here. I don't think it's over here. But there was even someone else. I mean, Mercedes something, Bentley or something. I don't know. It sounds like a porn name, but it's anyway. But it says it might even have talked about it before her. So around that time, from about a little bit, even before 49, like 45, I don't know, 45, 55 is when gender started getting talked about as its own thing. But if you look it up, it says John Money coined the term in 55. So I don't know. I find it very confusing. But anyway, and here you have I actually like the word blue stocking. So it actually talks about the Blue Stocking Society. And it's history. And I didn't really know about the Blue Stocking Society. Montague, and who is? There's another Elizabeth. I don't know if it mentions it in there. But it starts with a V or something, I think. It don't matter. Anyway, and then there's also upper class women, blah, 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 blah. Oh, Montague. Oh, yeah, that's who it was on that side. Imprudent, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, all these graphics, those are fun. Those are fun. Those are more on this side. Oh, yes, goes to the next section. So anyway, there's also a Japanese society, the Saitosha of 1911, it's another word for blue stocking. And there were also the red stockings, which were more political. It's like referencing communism, you know. But the blue stockings apparently got their name. I don't remember if it was... The blue stockings, were they more informal? It was like these worsted blue socks were a sign of informal, where you're supposed to wear like, is it brown socks or whatever the fuck you're supposed to wear. The formal attire, they wore blue stockings instead. And so that's how they got the name, you know. But I like the term. I like to call people blue stockings, you know. And then, yeah, there's words like, what's interesting is later on, there's a feminist press called Virago Press. Like, I think of Termagen as another one used for, like, women. Like, you know, like, it has a connotation also of, like, a fussy woman or, you know, upset woman. Or, in this case, it's like a term of endearment, or not necessarily, or like warrior woman, I guess you could say, is what they want to say. Virago Press. I forgot the name of the woman who started that. But I find it interesting is the prefix vir, like virtue, virile, actually means manly. You know, I don't know if they realized that at the time, so I thought that was kind of ironic. What do you got? Dude, people will not leave me alone today. They always need me for something. But anyway, here's the Lowell Mill Girls, which is another important moment in history. I guess, you know, fits the theme of feminism and all that jazz. But I wanted to talk about, let's see, I think it's on page 89. I wrote some of these pages down. Where are we at 69? Oh, yeah, Sojourner Truth. I actually told my girlfriend, Chelsea, who was just the one that was, like, hissing at me, or whatever, you know. Anyway, about her anti-woman speech, where it's like, you know, if they consider black women unfeminine as a stereotype, and yet they are women, so if white women aren't able to perform certain work, then white or black women expected to perform them, you know, anti-woman, you know. Anyway, let's go to page 89, which is one of the things I find fascinating out here. See, Alice Paul. Oh yeah, she's one of the, anyway, we'll get to her. Maybe. Hi. Like I said, I'm kind of just winging this all willy-nilly. It's my Emmeline Pankhurst. Yeah, and she's the other flip side of that. But I was going to mention specifically right here. I actually found out from a Vox video about the suffragette who knew jiu-jitsu. I didn't know her name, though. They didn't explain it in that. Edith Garud. Right there. Edith Garud. And I actually do study, or I have studied Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I'm just fascinated by Jiu-Jitsu in particular. It's just a fun martial art, I think. But this one is more, the one she taught, I think, is more Japanese Jiu-Jitsu style. I don't know if it probably has at least some Judo mixed in if it's going to be effective. Not to go on a McDojo rant or whatever. But I am, you know, being in that kind of culture, you know, you start to gatekeep to a certain extent and realize traditional martial arts are mostly bullshit. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know for sure what her lineage is. It could be she was more judo based. I'd have to research it more. I did read her page on it though, and you know, like, she also teaches she taught with her husband. I can't remember his name right off, but they mentioned her in certain movies. In fact, one of my friends at the time was watching a movie on her. I can't remember. It was one that came out recently, like 2020, and it was just coincidental. I was like, oh, they mentioned her in this, you know, and then we talked about that, the suffragettes who knew jiu-jitsu. So I find that very fascinating that they got associated with jiu-jitsu. But apparently, so they'll be seen like tossing policemen. The problem with this, though, from what my understanding is, and to a certain extent I may be wrong, I only have a little bit of research on this, was a lot of these were staged, and she was actually tossing her husband around, who was dressed as a policeman. So I guess it made them seem like more badass than they actually were. So this is kind of silly. All right, let me see. Did I write something else that I need to talk about? I should have talked about. Well, hold on. Let me go ahead and because I have these. Let's see. Oh yeah, Maurice, page 102. Let's go here. Oh yeah, birth control. Yeah. So like Mary and Margaret Sanger and all that. But I'm aware of her, but who I didn't know was Marie Stopes, who was like supposed to be the UK's version of. Oh, that reminds me of that emote recently where fucking Elon Musk made it was like Bill Clinton and compared him to the pregnant man emoji. Silly. Anyway, yeah, Marie Stopes, kind of new to... Oh, but apparently Margaret Sanger is the one who coined the term birth control, so I find that fascinating. What's the next page I had to write down? Oh, yeah, the personal is political, which is... I don't know. To some degree, I would argue this has fucked up modern politics and just made current society unbearable. The consequences of the personal as political. Not to get into too far into politics talk myself. My political beliefs have evolved back and forth over the years. Alright, let me see. Do I have something else written down on here that I want to talk about? Oh yeah, so they mention here, and they go into more definition, of course. Oh, well, this is... Wait, oh yeah. So it talks about the Roe versus Wade, which is a recent thing that has been overturned. Won't get into that. Oh yeah, male gaze. So apparently, and I knew about the male gaze, but they came out in 1975. And you can... This seems definitely be affecting video games and like recent movies. You don't seem to see as much of the male gaze anymore. Apparently it comes from a Michel Foucault term called the medical gazes. That goes back to like the 60s, it mentions, which I didn't know about that. And then you have bell hooks who coined a term called the oppositional gazes. I was trying to understand that, but it doesn't make any sense to me yet. Like I didn't understand what she was saying because she didn't give any examples. Sometimes I really do think people just try to come up with, like, take certain themes and just make it their own, but then they don't fully flesh them out. And, you know, that's what it feels like to me until I see better examples of it. So, oh yeah, Betty Friedan. I've read her book, The Feminine Mystique, which came out in 1963, I believe. Yeah, I'm seeing details like past histories of things. Just wanted to be blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Alright, so, anyway, one thing, like I said, I found interesting. The first wave feminism, blah, blah, blah. You got the Declaration of Sentiments back in 1848, which was in New York. I remember there's this anti-feminist chick named Karen... What's her name? Karen Strohan? God damn it, now I can't remember. Doing like a disservice. Like I remember I was watching videos on her, like Janice Fiamingo, the so-called, and then there's Camille Paglia, which I've heard another feminist book called some of these women the anti-feminists, which I don't know, it's like more gatekeeping, yeah, of who, true Scotsman of who is really feminist, you know. Oh, and they talk about that too, is there's like I can't just keep, you know, my brain's all over the place. The 82 Barnard Conference on Sexuality, which split feminists on, is porn ethical or not, or like should it be allowed, or should sexuality be encouraged? And there's like, some of these feminists say practice political lesbianism, which I find amusing. And they even say a lot of legit lesbians find it insulting that they even say stuff like that, you know, to be like, you can just be politically, you can choose your sex, you know. Though, then I have heard in a psychology book that women's sexuality are supposed to be more fluid than men, so, you know, it's not so set in stone as men's is supposed to be. So, but the second wave feminism, of course, I always knew associated with Betty Friedan, and you have Gloria Steinem, say, on the practical end of that. Whereas before you would have Elizabeth Cady Stanton and the Betty Friedan row, and then you would have Susan B. Anthony, kind of, I think of like the parallel was she is like Gloria Steinem. But, like I said, the idea of proto-second wave feminist as... Simone de Beauvoir, I never thought about it like that. It was like, where does she fit into this? But then this book made the case that she's almost like a proto-second wave feminist. They shut up the ideas of that to be a woman is a crafted image, you know, and then that leads to the problem that doesn't have a name of Betty Friedan, and it goes from there. Which, speaking of, I'm interested in this movie come out. I think it's called, what is it called? Sorry, Darlene, or... something. God damn it, I hated the other movie that she did, Booksmart. I didn't like that one at all. But this one looks interesting. I can't remember the name of it. It's like Sorry Darling or something. I want to look that up. No, anyway, it's easy to find out. I get, I'm probably confused. It was Sorry to Bother You, which I started to watch a video on the other day, but I didn't get to. Alright, so let me get into this. I'm just going to flip real quick before I get to there. Oh yeah, Judy Chicago shown on here, feminist art, and all that jazz. Alright, let's see, Laura Mulvey. Oh yeah, so here, we're starting to get in. Here's where they actually show the little details of the male gaze here, and it doesn't like show examples really. Much Rape is a conscious process of intimidation, blah blah blah. Alright, so this is very controversial, I think. I don't know, here's my... No, I don't really want to try to take up key positions on here, not that I have an audience that will be split one way or the other yet. But in 1975, Susan Brown Miller was the one that revolutionized this idea of rape isn't just for like men's just taking, physical pleasure or whatever. It's a power game. See, it says rape is political. I just think there's certain stances like this that don't seem to be very founded in reality or really make much sense if you really think about it, like analyze it critically. Like, I just don't think that's the reason, rape happens. And I even looked up a little bit about this 75 book Against Our Will, and I was reading about it, and there's some articles right away saying, no, of course this isn't why rape happens, this isn't the answer for why it occurs. But I don't know, I need to do more studies on that, but it just seems right off, it doesn't seem to make much sense of why that would be the answer, why rape happens. But she also talks about rape. Now, I'm actually, the section I'm in right now talks about rape as used in warfare, and is an example of misogyny, blah, blah, blah. Like political and all that. I do think, I would like to see more, nuance between, I think sexism and misogyny can be split up. I don't think they're inherently interchangeable. I think you could show of hatred of women, but not necessarily express sexism as that you're better than them. An example of this might be the incels, where they don't necessarily think they're better than women, but they hate them because of their rejection. And yet old school, if you look at, say, old school ideas of chivalry, you could say, were not misogynistic, but sexist because they felt they were better than women, or on a higher plane, and they had to treat them. But they were like, we treat women with respect because they're our seconds, So I do think you can split. I think there's an interesting divide there if you are willing to be more nuanced in your terminology and you care about semantics. As sexism can appear where misogyny isn't, and misogyny can appear where sexism isn't. I think that could be an interesting, thing to look at about differences, but people aren't really that nuanced, and they're just use misogyny and sexism just interchangeably. I would say in most cases they exist at the same time, but I think it would be an interesting field to look at where they don't match up and where one is more prevalent than the other, or where one exists where the other doesn't. But it's hard to get people to be that nuanced. But there are some nuanced feminists philosophers. I don't know if I'll find that section, but what's her name? Judith Butler, or there's also Julia Kristeva. She's in here somewhere. I'm not gonna try to find all of them in here. Yeah, there's a whole bunch. There's past stuff I've read yet even, but we'll get to that. But I've pretty much finished it out. Let me see if I can hop to the end, because there is something I do want to say if I can hop to the end. Is this book? Yeah, so this book has it too. So this is a problem I have with no, I shouldn't say that. Actually, it's not really a problem. It's actually great in the glossary, but these little directories right here, is they have little sections on feminists they either didn't, go into detail on, they go into detail. These, man, have always been, because I'm one of those people that likes to read cover to cover, and just recently I've realized that I'm just going to have to, just briefly, what's the opposite of peruse, just scan. I'm just going to have to scan that section for now, because I get so overwhelmed with those sections. That's that becomes where this book gets dry at the end when it gets to the directory, which is basically when the book is over. But I think I've covered most everything. Like I said, I didn't get into the third wave, so they have it in the book, but I'm just going to focus right here and just stop showing the book. maybe I'll show it like this. So, I have my notes in here too. I take like all kinds of. It's in there. Anyway. And I have several. Dude, I have like 3 notebooks I take, depending on what I want to write down. And I was thinking about showing one of my notebooks for this and go over all my feminist notes, but not all of them are taken from this book. But then there's third wave feminism, where it says in here, a lot of people consider it the riot girl movement. It's like girl, 3 R's usually you see, associated with Bikini Kill, specifically Kathleen Hanna, I believe is her name, and she's in some other groups too. But Bikini Kill and Bratmobile are the people who kind of came up with the term. And I also think of Tank Girl, 1990. I think is that a 94 movie? 1994 Tank Girl. I think of associated with like third wave feminism, the riot girl movement. You know, but the person who coined the term third wave feminism is Alice Walker's daughter, Rebecca Walker. She coined it, and I think, now I should have looked it up. It's either 92 or 94. Probably 92. Yeah, we'll say that. Alice Walker, who wrote The Color Purple. I think she compared it, says womanism. She came up with the term womanism. She says feminism is like lavender, whereas womanism is like purple. So that's where the term purple comes from. Is there anything else to say, really? Like, I think, and then there's a debate over fourth wave feminism. I mean, how many waves are you going to have, and like, what's going to distinguish them? Is it going to be like not a paradigm shift, but like a major difference? And here in this book, it kind of says fourth wave is the internet's use. It says 2012, but if I was going to draw a line where if you're going to have a fourth wave feminism, I would say it started around 2014 with Gamergate. I think, once you have like Anita Sarkeesian, and then on the flip side you have like Sargonova Cat, and who else is fucking in that? Milo Yiannopoulos is all in there. If you were going to go there. Yeah, I think that's about where I draw the line for fourth wave feminism. It wouldn't be 2012, but around Gamergate. So, anyway, I'll sign off on this. There's more I could probably say, and this is probably my longest video, right? I don't even know how long I've been filming, but I'll sign off here, and this will be my analysis for DK's feminism book. And next, I think I'm going to read some Junji Ito or something, so we'll see. Jeez, I'm sweating. It's a fucking brutal summer, dude. Climate change and all that shit, man. Anyway, bye.